You guys really surprised me when you requested this deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on building great team cultures, I just never would have thought that we'd be going all the way back to ancient Egypt to learn about it.
Really?
Yeah, but seriously, trust me. This is going to be much more fun than reading some textbook on Egyptian history. It's fascinating. We're going to be talking about the book
Okay.
Architects of Extraordinary Team Culture by Arthur Karmatzi. And this book,
Okay.
it has some seriously insightful stuff about teamwork. I mean, we're talking pyramids, pharaohs, and some surprisingly timeless wisdom from way back then that still applies to leading teams like today, right now.
Right. Well, what's cool about the book, I think, is that it tells a story
Yeah.
to get these points across, a journey through ancient Egypt to really bring the concepts to life, you know?
Exactly. And it's not like your typical boring business book. This is really a captivating story. So the story follows this young leader. His name is Tep Tep. And he goes on this journey to uncover the secrets to building these truly amazing teams, but to help us really get into the nitty-gritty of all this and make sure that you guys listening can walk away with some really practical advice that you can apply. Well, I've brought in an expert
Right.
on, well, all things human behavior, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
They're incredible at
well.
seeing the patterns and making those connections that just make you go, oh, now I get it. So you ready to kind of decode these ancient secrets together?
I'm so ready. Let's see what hidden gems we can dig up.
Awesome. So the book kicks off by introducing us to this concept they call the pyramid of commitment.
Okay.
And it's essentially a model with 3 levels, each one representing a higher level of, dedication
Right.
and effectiveness. And at the very bottom level, you have skill, which is super important, of course, but not enough on its own. And then above that, you have attitude. And then finally, at the peak of the pyramid, right at the top,
Right.
the very top, the peak of team performance is cause.
Interesting. You know, if you think about it, those very first pyramids that were ever built, you know, the ones that were made by just workers who were there just to get paid, essentially they were just trading their skills for their basic needs.
Right.
A lot of those pyramids actually ended up crumbling. They just fell apart.
Oh, wow.
They definitely had the skills, but it seems like they didn't have that true commitment.
Yeah.
But the pyramids that were built by teams who really believed in what they were creating, you know, they had a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Those have actually stood the test of time, and they're still around today. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is. So Tep Tep in the story, you know, he kind of starts out thinking that skill, that's the key. Like, that's all he needs to worry about.
Okay.
So he gets this incredible job working directly for the pharaoh. He gets to manage this huge team of like the most skilled craftspeople you can imagine. But things go downhill pretty fast. His team, they're just a mess. Nobody's getting along. There's just zero cooperation.
Oh.
It's like they're all just going through the motions. They don't care.
That's where this whole idea of attitude comes in, right? It's like
Mhm.
the book is really hammering home this point that you can't just have a skilled team. That's not enough. You need to have the right mindset. You got to have the right attitude, what they call a success attitude.
Exactly. And then it gets even more interesting because Tep Tep meets with this like wise consultant who introduces this. Well, at the time, it was this like revolutionary concept of internal branding and internal customer service,
Oh,
which basically means treating your own employees the same way you would treat your most valuable customers.
now it might seem kind of obvious, right?
Yeah.
But back then, that was like a total game changer. The idea is that when your employees feel valued, you know, they feel respected and listened to,
Yeah.
then they actually develop that success attitude.
Yeah.
And that's when you know they're not just going through the motions, they're actually going to be invested. They'll take ownership and be proactive.
And they'll go that extra mile.
Exactly.
It's like if you're demanding that everybody be innovative and then you punish them when they make mistakes, well, you know, that's just sending a mixed message.
Yeah.
And it's probably not going to work out very well. You really need to create a work environment that actually supports the same values that you want to see.
That's it. That's the whole internal branding piece of the puzzle. Like the messages that you're sending out internally within your team, those need to match up with what you're projecting out to the world. If it doesn't, then you're just going to create confusion. And you know,
Yeah.
that's how you lose trust, for sure.
So Tep Tep, he realizes that he's been so focused on just the technical side of things, the skills,
Right.
that he's just completely neglected that human element. He hasn't taken the time to build that success attitude within his team.
No.
But even with this newfound knowledge, he's still really struggling with how to get everybody on his team to work together, you know, smoothly. Like, how do you actually predict what those team dynamics are going to be, you know, when everybody has a different personality and different things that motivate them.
Right. And that's where the story takes us even deeper into these mysteries about what makes people tick. Tep-Tep's on this quest to get answers, and it leads him right to the queen, who has the key to unlock that team synergy.
Okay, so this queen, she's not your typical queen.
Oh.
She is like this master of reading people. She's amazing.
Wow.
And she has this ancient scroll. It's called the 8 Scrolls of Emotional Drivers, which is essentially a cheat sheet to figuring out what makes people do what they do.
Interesting. Tell me more.
So these scrolls describe 8 core drives that like shape how people behave. Love belonging, security control, diversity change, recognition significance, achievement, challenge growth, excellence, and contribution. Yeah, and it turns out that every single one of us has this totally unique mix of these drivers. Like we each have our own personal recipe that influences, you know, how we approach everything, work, relationships, everything. But the real magic comes in when you figure out how those individual recipes work together when you put them together into a team.
That's it. That's the key. It's not just knowing what motivates each person individually. It's about understanding that what might motivate one person could actually demotivate someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Somebody who's really driven by security control, they might butt heads with someone who thrives on diversity change, right?
Absolutely.
The secret sauce is really just figuring out how to understand these dynamics and putting together teams that actually complement each other instead of clashing.
Yeah. So the queen, to help Tep-Tep understand all of this, she tells him all these really interesting stories.
I bet.
She uses the Egyptian gods and goddesses like Horus, Seth, Isis, Hathor, you know, and she uses them to illustrate how the different combinations of those emotional drivers can totally shape those team dynamics.
That's awesome.
Some teams can have total harmony and others, well, let's just say things can get pretty dramatic.
Right. I love how she's using those stories. I mean, it's a brilliant way to show that all of this stuff, these concepts, they're totally timeless.
Yeah.
You know, the same exact dynamics that were at play back in ancient Egypt, those are still happening in our teams today.
Exactly. And so Tep-Tep, he finally has this big aha moment.
Oh, wait.
He realizes he's been trying to use this one-size-fits-all approach to leadership, and it doesn't work. Instead of trying to force everybody to fit into the same box, he should be tapping into each individual's unique strengths. So he's starting to get it. But there's one piece of the puzzle he still hasn't quite figured out, and that's the top level of the pyramid, cause.
That shared purpose.
Exactly, the shared sense of purpose, that thing that makes a team really, truly extraordinary. And to discover that, well, he's going to have to embark on one final quest.
Yeah.
A challenging one. It takes him all the way to the top of a mountain. And this journey, it's about way more than just getting to the top of the mountain. It's a metaphor. It represents his internal journey, his personal growth. And it's what he needs to go through to be able to reach that level of commitment to a cause. So we're going to leave Tep-Tep here for now at the bottom of the mountain. He's come a long way, but the biggest lesson is yet to come. So stay tuned. We'll pick up his journey in part 2 of this deep dive.